In one sense, choice is possible, but what is not possible is not to choose. I can always choose, but I must know that if I do not choose, that is still a choice. That's a quote by French philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre, and it basically means in so many words that failure to choose is still a choice. A lot of the pain and suffering that many people go through is because they just don't pick a direction. They just don't make a conscious decision to do something with their life, whatever that is. When I was directionless, when I had very little purpose in life, when I didn't really have any sort of clear path in front of me, it led to a lot of anxiety. It led to a lot of mental anguish and pain and wasted time and unnecessary suffering. But I also believe, in some degree, to fate and that purpose and path take time. So if you get to the end of this video and you still don't know, just keep trying. That's the one thing that I did that eventually got me to some sort of purpose, some sort of path, which is that I want to help people. I'd like to talk about life, help people find their purpose. And I like to say that my only qualification for talking about life is that I'm alive. And I completely believe that. I don't believe in a lot of labels. I'm not a psychiatrist or anything like that. I just really am interested in these things and want to talk about them and share them from my perspective and talk to you a little bit about how I figured some of these things out, because a lot of what helped me in finding direction and finding purpose was literally just listening to other people talk about their direction and purpose. So all that being said, yes, if you don't have a purpose, if you don't have a direction, that can be troubling. It was so troubling to me for so many years. But just the mere fact that you're looking, the mere fact that you're watching this video, you should give yourself some credit and have some faith in yourself that you're going to figure it out, because you're trying. And I think that's the main point of most of this, is to try and to ask questions. So I made this chart. I want to work through this chart and just talk about how to find purpose and how to find direction and how I got there, and just walk through it in what I feel is a very logical way. This is my first time making a chart like this, so please bear with me if there's any errors. I would love to know your thoughts on it. I will make a link to this down below so you can download it in case it is in some way useful to you completely for free. Most of this is just literally from my head, from thinking about what were all of the barriers that I faced when trying to find direction and purpose. And honestly, my only goal for this video is to help one person. If I could just help one person, if I could help one person figure out their path and purpose, I would be so happy with that. So if this is helpful, please let me know. This is a little different from my other videos, so if you've watched some of my other content and you're like, what is this? I'm not used to watching videos on charts. Well, hey, thank you for being here. Thanks for coming along for the ride. So I know this chart can seem a little overwhelming, but don't worry, it is just very detailed. I tried to make it very detailed for anyone who's just really struggling with this, but I'm going to walk you through every single part of it. So do not get overwhelmed by the size or the depth of this chart. So, first of all, I want to talk about purpose and direction, because I think both of these things are important and they can kind of be used interchangeably, and I think I do use them interchangeably to a degree on this chart, but I want you to keep in mind the difference, because I think if you know the differences, I think it'll just help you gain some clarity. So what is purpose? Purpose is the answer to the question, why am I here? Purpose is deep, emotional, existential, it's internal. It is long-term and lifelong. It is a justification for being. When I asked myself, what is the shortest, most concise definition I can come up with for purpose, that's what I came up with, a justification for being. I think if you're struggling with anything, first off, defining it will help you clarify. So that's the definition I came up with, a justification for being. Other definitions I found were something that gives meaning to your existence, the central motivations and aims that drive an individual's actions and guide their decisions. Once you find your purpose, it's much easier to have direction. I think that is completely true, that once you have purpose, it's much easier to understand where you should go next. It's much easier to find direction, but keep in mind that sometimes direction comes before purpose. I was not clear on my purpose, but I had some kind of a direction. I wanted to make videos. I was working in photography, I was working in film, I was working in videography for a long time, and eventually I started making YouTube videos, I started making all sorts of videos, but that direction ultimately led me towards the purpose of wanting to make videos to help people. So don't always think that you have to have purpose before you have direction. Sometimes if you just have some sort of direction, something that you want to do, it can then lead you to your purpose. So I think either of these can lead you to the other. And not having a purpose can make life feel meaningless. Yeah, I definitely went through that 100%. So what is direction? Direction is the answer to the question, where am I going? It is more practical, future-focused, actionable, external, short to long term. So say that your purpose is to help people, right? The direction can be to go to medical school and to become a doctor. So you see how those two things are different, and you need to have both the purpose and the direction, but these two things are related, yet one doesn't always lead to the other, right? Like the purpose of wanting to help people does not always lead to the direction of medical school, right? But knowing purpose can be quite broad, so it can sometimes be hard to find direction, although it can also sometimes make it easy to find direction, because if you know you want to be a doctor, then you know you have to go to medical school. Purpose in action is another definition for direction. The path you choose to walk based on your purpose, a set of actions, goals, and decisions that move your life forward aligned with your purpose. Not having a direction can feel stagnant. It can feel like you're stuck, like you don't know where to go, especially if you have a purpose but you don't have a direction. That can be equally painful because you know that there is something you want to do. There's this larger life calling that you have, but you don't have the direction. You don't know how to get started on it. Let's start going through the second part of this chart. How to find purpose and direction. So I think the first question to ask yourself is, are you lacking purpose and direction, right? Are you wanting to do something with your life but not knowing what or why? Or are you just burnt out? You have a purpose and a direction, but you're just too burnt out to move forward? Or are you stuck? You have a purpose or a direction in mind, but you're unable to move forward for reasons other than burnout, such as lack of creativity, opportunity, or boredom. Or are you experiencing health issues, having purpose and direction, but all your time goes to managing illness, pain, anxiety, neurodivergence? Yeah, I have ADHD, and before I learned how to handle that, a lot of my time and energy went to just dealing with that every day. So yeah, I couldn't fulfill purpose and direction, and even at points when I knew that I had one, I couldn't always fulfill it because of that, and until I had learned how to manage that, I couldn't move forward. Or are you just hopeless? Or do you have no purpose and you feel like any sort of purpose, taking on direction is just meaningless? And that's not a good place to be. If that's where you are, I say just take care of yourself first. Take care of your health. Try to find some sort of spirituality, some sort of religion, something that just helps you sort of start to feel a little better about life before you start trying to tackle purpose and direction. And all of these other things, burnout, being stuck, experiencing health issues, see a doctor, get the help that you can. I'm not going to get into that one. If you have direction and you're just burnt out or stuck, there are definitely things you can do for this. Many of the things are actually in this chart. I think many of the things that we're going to talk about for people who don't have their purpose can also help if you have purpose and you're burnt out or stuck. Keep that in mind. But if that's something that interests you, talking more about how to fulfill purpose and direction in your life if you're burnt out or stuck, tell me in the comments below. I'd love to make a video about that, but I'm not going to talk about that too much more here because I want to move forward. If you don't have purpose and you don't have direction, I think the next question to ask yourself is why? Is it because of fear? Is it because of shame? Is it because of no sense of self? Is it because you're overwhelmed? Or is it because you have a lack of life experiences or inspiration? So now I want to go down each one of these paths. So if you are unable to find purpose and direction in your life because of fear, ask yourself, what is that fear, right? Fear of where it may lead, fear of choosing the wrong direction, or fear of the unknown, right? Try to figure out, what exactly are you afraid of? And then ask yourself, why do you feel this fear? Is it perfectionism? Are you so caught up in needing things to be just right, needing things to be perfect, that you don't even start, right? Remember, perfect is the enemy of the good, right? Perfect will keep you stuck. Perfect will keep you doing nothing because you're so afraid of not getting things just right. But the more you do things, the more you fail, the more you're going to get closer to products and work and art and, whatever it is that you're doing that is closer to perfect, right? Nothing's perfect. You can get closer, though, the more you try. Okay, are you feeling fear because of low self-worth? Because you don't believe in yourself, you don't feel worthy? You can work on that, right? You can absolutely work on that. It takes work. It's not quick. It's not an easy fix, but you can work on it. Are you feeling fear because you have a need for control? That is another big one. Needing to control everything will definitely keep you stuck, because in any larger goal and purpose and direction that you're trying to fulfill, there's so many micro steps that if you get caught up in the need for control, you are going to not go anywhere very quickly. Right? You're going to be stuck. Overthinking, I think overthinking is such a big one, because there's so many things to tackle. Like I just said, there's so many micro tasks in working on your purpose, working on finding the direction in your life, that it's very easy to start overthinking. And overthinking, I think of overthinking as kind of like a cancer. It's like once it starts, it wants to keep going. Once you get into that pattern of overthinking, it's very easy to just make that the norm and just continue to overthink every single day and waste all of your time doing that. Are you afraid of starting too late? Right? If you're older, if you haven't picked your path and your purpose in life and you're a little bit older, it can be very hard to start because you think, well, I should have did this when I was younger, and now I look a little silly doing this thing that I should already have competency at, that I should already be successful at, but I didn't start. So now I kind of look a little strange doing dances on TikTok as a 40-year-old when I should have started sooner. Do you have existential anxiety? That is like the fear of death. That is the fear of, you have your path and your purpose, but what if it doesn't matter? What if nothing comes of it? What if you set out to help people, but the mere act of helping people doesn't help anyone? You actually hurt them, right? That happens sometimes. That can be, it's like kind of a contradiction. It's hard to understand, but if you look into how charities work sometimes, if you look into sometimes in the medical field, how we think that there is a new procedure, a new drug that helps people, and it ends up hurting people. These things can be very difficult to come to terms with. And if you have existential anxiety, thinking about those things, thinking about making a mistake, thinking about the fact that maybe nothing matters can be very difficult for people. Do you feel fear because you're afraid of disappointing others? I think that's a very common one. Many people have families, have societies, have cultures, have friends that want them to do something different than what they want to do. And coming to terms with disappointing people, potentially disappointing, right? Because you don't know that they're actually going to be disappointed. They may seem disappointed, but further down the road, if you're good at it, if you're successful, they're probably not going to care, right? So very often, a lot of these things are assumptions. The thought that someone will be disappointed with your choice is really an assumption. Although sometimes they tell you straight up that they don't want you to do something. I told my family I wanted to do YouTube, and they said there's too much competition, do something else. So sometimes they'll tell you that straight out, but it shouldn't stop you. Are you afraid of success? I know that may sound a little strange, but I think many people are afraid of success, because with success comes responsibilities, comes pressure, comes having to go into the unknown. Some people have never really had any success, have never really had any spotlight on them, and they don't know how to handle that. So if you're feeling any of those things, if you're feeling any of those fears, I think the next thing to do, and this is the same question I'm going to ask in all of these columns, is what is the easiest next step you can take? We want to take this very large concept, we want to take this very large task of finding direction, of finding purpose, and we want to just keep breaking it down into these individual chunks. We want to keep breaking it down into the smallest possible thing that we could work on in the moment. I think there's some saying, how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time. And purpose and direction are a big undertaking. So you have to just keep breaking it down into the most minute thing that you can do. Always keep thinking that. What is the next easiest step that I can take? You take enough easy steps forward, you get somewhere. If you keep thinking too far ahead, it's too conceptual. The things that you have to do are too big. But if you just go one little thing at a time, it gets easier. If you're filling out a college application, the thought of going to college might be too big. It might be too much to take on. But if you realize, okay, I just have to do the application. Then when you get to the application, if it seems like a lot, ask yourself, what's the next easiest step? Okay, I can write my name on the application. Okay, I can write my date of birth. Okay, I can write my social security number, right? Just go easy step to easy step. One thing at a time is how you move forward here. What is the next easiest step you can take if you're feeling fear? If you think that fear is what's keeping you from finding purpose and direction. So explore the roots of your fear and how to resolve them. There are so many good videos on YouTube about resolving all of these things. There's so many good books. There's so many good podcasts. There's so many resources out there. There's so many free resources out there for this. Of course, you can go to a coach. You can go to therapy. You can do all of these things. There's so many free resources that you can use right now. There's so many that you can use at 3 a.m. to help you with this. When you're stuck in bed and you can't sleep because you're worried about what should you do with your life, there's resources for this, right? There's resources for any of these things, any of these individual tasks that you need to accomplish. Figure out how to do them, right? Take it into your own hands. If you decide to take action on something, that is the first step. And again, just keep moving forward, little step by little step. So what is the next easiest step you could take? Okay, understand and accept. I think acceptance is so important. If you're afraid, if some sort of fear is keeping you from figuring out your purpose, from figuring out your direction in life, and you now know that it's a fear, the next step is just accept it. Just accept it, because once you accept it, you can work on it. If you don't accept these things that are keeping you from your direction and your purpose, all of your time is going to go to fighting. It's going to go to fighting the thing that's keeping you from moving forward, whether it's anxiety, fear, any of the things that I'm going to talk about next, shame, all of that stuff. It takes up so much mental energy. It absorbs so much space in your subconscious that you can't move forward. But if you figure out what's holding you back and you just accept it, you can start working on these things. And it's not just you. Everyone has these issues, right? The reason why I made this chart is because I dealt with all of these things, so it's not a big deal. You can move past it. What is the next easiest step you can take? Safe and low stakes experimentation. There is always a safe, maybe not always, but there's usually a safe and low-risk way of testing your fears. Say if you're afraid of talking to someone in person, you have social anxiety, right? You're afraid of talking to people in person. Well, maybe you can have some Zoom meetings. Maybe you can join some sort of online thing. Maybe you start playing video games, talk to people through a headset. Figure out the lowest risk way that you could start working on this social anxiety fear. And of course, the goal is eventually to just start talking to actual people, get out there. But if that's too much, if you can't do that, but if you can talk on a headset to people through a video game, maybe that's what you have to do. Just accept and move forward. Okay, take a small risk, sort of the same as safe and low stakes experimentation. And the last one on this list is exposure therapy to uncertainty. I think uncertainty has a lot to do with fear. And if you are afraid of the unknown, afraid of what's going to happen when you start pursuing a path, when you start pursuing your purpose, when you start going down a direction, just exposing yourself to uncertainty can be very difficult. And that alone can be a step you take, a small step you take towards moving forward. If you're so afraid of uncertainty that you can't leave your house, or you can't go to a social function, or you can't apply for a job, figure out how can you just get out a little bit. Go to a park. Go sit in a coffee shop. Figure out something you can do. There's got to be something you can push yourself to get to. So what's another reason why you might not be able to figure out your purpose or direction in life? Well, it might be shame. Shame is an internalized belief that your true desires are wrong, selfish, or not good enough. So now let's ask the next question. Why do you feel shame? And you have to really ask yourself this, right? I have some things on this list, but it could be any number of things. And you have to really ask yourself, get specific. Don't be satisfied with the general answer. Only you can know these things, right? So why do you feel shame? Societal or family expectations? Yeah. If your family wants you to do something, like if your family wants you to be a lawyer and you want to be a dancer, I could see how there would be shame in that, because maybe you come from a very conservative family. Maybe you come from a family that has always sort of followed tradition. Everyone sort of has the same career path in the family, and you suddenly want to go and be an artist, and you're ashamed to do that because they look down upon people like that. So that certainly happens. So cultural conditioning. In certain cultures, to be successful is kind of looked down upon. It's kind of like, why would you want that? Why do you want to kind of leave the group? Why do you want to do something different? Why do you want to be more successful than us? There's a great quote by Alex Hormozy that says, no one will hate you for doing worse than them. And a lot of cultural conditioning, a lot of societal and familial expectations are wrapped around you doing as good or worse than other people in your society, in your family, in your culture, because it makes them feel comfortable. When you go off and do something different, it makes people feel uncomfortable. And maybe they feel uncomfortable because they're just worried about you, they care about you, but they still feel uncomfortable, and that's why they're going to push back. That's why they're not going to give you their blessing. That's why they're going to kind of try to make you feel afraid, right? You might say, well, I want to be a dancer. And then they'll say something along the lines of like, well, you're not going to make any money with that. How do you think you'll make money with that? They'll just try to instill fear in you. They'll try to instill shame in you. And you need to be able to just move past that. And it's very difficult. I agree, it's very difficult. Another reason you may feel shame is because of past rejections or mistakes. So maybe you've tried something, maybe you have a path, maybe you have a direction you're moving in, but you failed a few times and it was humiliating and you don't want to do it again. And let me tell you, like, the more you fail, the better off you are. I've failed so many times. I've, like, virtually failed at everything at this point. And I've learned so much from my failures. I've realized that I've learned way more from my failures than my successes. And when you have success, when you do well at something, I've realized that the satisfaction that you get from that doesn't even last that long. It's more about the journey. It's more about how you get there. It's more about choosing a path that you want to be on every single day, that you could wake up and go and get started on this thing and not feel like you are imprisoned. That's what you have to do. That's the type of thing that you have to try to choose for yourself. So what if you are feeling shame because of low self-worth? Work on it. Work on yourself. It's possible to start to see yourself as worth more than you were told you were worth, or more than you currently think you're worth. It's 100% possible. There are a gazillion YouTube videos on how to do that. What if you are feeling shame due to the inability to ask for help or hyper independence? Okay, so yeah, there are some directions in life. There is some things that might be your purpose that you might need help. Like, you might need someone to help you, right? If you want to get into school for something, you have to ask for recommendation letters. There are very few paths in life in which you don't have to ask anyone for help. And I understand not wanting to ask for help. I have the hyper independence disease. Like, it's a disease to want to just do everything yourself and not ask anyone. And in some ways it's good because you fail a lot and you realize things and you have to teach yourself to do things because you don't want to ask anyone else. But if that's what's holding you back, you have to find a way to get over it, because almost everything that you do in life, you're going to have to ask someone for help at some point. So in terms of shame, what is the next easiest step you can take? So explore the roots of your shame and how to resolve it. Understand and accept. Challenge your shame. Ask, who told me wanting this is bad? I think exploring those roots of where that shame came from is very important. It's very helpful. It was very helpful for me. And I think very often the root of shame, I think it's almost always from childhood. I think it's almost always from your early life. I think that I don't know if a shame, like I think, sure, a shame complex, some sort of a shame issue can develop in adulthood, but I think the majority of the time it comes from childhood. So if you're wondering where to look, that's probably a good place to start. Clarify your values. Ask yourself, what do I actually care about? Because maybe there's been some shame instilled into you that isn't your shame. It's somebody else's shame. You want to be a dancer. Your parents said, well, what if you fall on the stage? You're going to look silly. So now maybe you feel shame around that. But when you ask yourself if that's something that you actually care about, if that's something that actually matters to you, you realize it doesn't. You realize you can make that mistake and just keep going, but they can't. And that's why they instilled that in you. So what is another way to deal with shame? Reparenting work. So that's when you grew up with not much guidance, with not much parenting. My parents were very young when they had me, so I had to do a lot of reparenting work. My mom was like 20 years old when she had me. I think she was 19 when she was pregnant with me. So what do you know at 20 years old? I mean, you're practically still a kid. How are you going to parent? So, my parents didn't know how to parent me. They definitely didn't. But the good thing is you can do that reparenting work. And I think a lot of people who don't get great parenting are the ones who end up not knowing what they want to do in life. They don't know what their purpose is. They don't know their direction. And it's because their early life wasn't filled with validation. Their early life wasn't filled with celebration of who they are and what they like and what they want to do. So they're sort of caught up in all of the cobwebs of the past, of the things that were put on them, of the shame, of the guilt, of the fear that they absorbed from other people because they didn't get the good things. They didn't get the validation. They didn't get the acceptance. They didn't get the encouragement. So now you're stuck in one of these other stages trying to figure out, how do I move forward? How do I figure out what I want to do in my life when you may be suffering from the next step, the next possible reason, which is no sense of self. If you're lacking an identity, finding purpose and direction, it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy at all. So let's ask, why would someone lack a sense of purpose? So it's what I was just talking about, enmeshment or over-control in childhood. If your parents were extremely controlling, if there was an enmeshment in which your parents sort of saw you as an extension of themselves, then it's going to be very difficult for you to individuate and figure out who you are and what you want to do, because from your very early developmental years, you were enmeshed with another person. You had another person basically telling you that they are you, that you are them. And when you're young and you're told that, and that's what's ingrained in you, it's very difficult. It's very difficult to get away from that as an adult. But you can. It's possible. It's definitely possible. Work on it. So what is another reason for why you may lack a sense of self? Constant invalidating environments. Again, if you grew up being told that what you like was stupid, that what you like was not interesting, that it wasn't going to make any money, that's an invalidating environment. You weren't getting encouragement. So you sort of just learned that the things that you like, that yourself is wrong. So you just gave up on having a self because nobody let you do it in childhood. So the next part is trauma and dissociation. Yeah, completely related to all these things. And everything on this chart is very interrelated. So you might not be suffering from one of these things, right? It may be a whole mix of different things from different boxes. So constant adaptation may be another reason why you don't have self. So that's if you were, say you had to move a lot as a child and you had to sort of keep changing your identity to fit in, keep changing who you were to deal with the culture that was surrounding you, that may be one of the reasons. Like, you don't have any roots. You didn't have roots in where you were growing up, so how could you possibly find your sense of self? Under reflection or lack of mirrors. Yeah, I think under reflection is a big problem, especially if you're facing some of these other issues, because if you don't reflect, if you don't kind of like look at yourself a little bit, how are you going to even recognize what the problem is? And lack of safe mirrors is people who will be honest with you and objective with you and not put their own issues onto you. Like, if you say to someone, if you say to a friend or to a mentor or whoever, I really want to be a doctor. And maybe they wanted to be a doctor, but they couldn't make it through med school. So they say to you, well, don't do that because it's expensive and it takes a long time and you're probably not going to like it anyway. But they're not saying that because they really feel that about you. It's because they tried and their experience was difficult and they didn't make it through. So now they have some sort of personal thing that's wrapped up in their answer to your question. So they're not really giving you an answer based on you. They're giving an answer based on themselves. So you have to really be careful to figure out who in your life is safe to be a mirror to you, to show you who you are, to mirror back to you the good parts of you, encourage you, mirror back to you what it is that you really want, who it is that you really are. So what is the next easiest step you can take if you're experiencing issues with a lack of self? So explore the roots of your lack of self and how to resolve it. Start to observe yourself. Yeah, just start paying attention to yourself. Because chances are, if you lack a sense of self, probably somewhere in your life, other people weren't paying attention to you. And that's why you have no sense of self to begin with. So start paying attention to yourself and noticing what you like, what you don't like. Ask questions, right? Ask what excites you, what bores you. Just pay attention. If you're still in school, like, what classes do you like? What classes do you dread? What kind of homework do you like doing? What kind of activities do you like? Really just dig deep into yourself. I mean, this may sound silly, like this may sound obvious, but there are people who struggle with this. I may sound silly to you, but trust me, someone out there is going through this. Ask yourself, when do you feel most like yourself? When are you most comfortable with yourself? When do you feel engrossed in an activity? When do you feel time fall away and you go into a flow state? Maybe you sit in class, maybe you sit at work and every single second is painful. It's hard to sit through. You're like, how am I going to get through this day? But then you go home and you start playing the piano and you walk away and you look at the clock and you notice, wow, I just played the piano for 3 hours and I didn't even notice. I didn't look at the clock once. I didn't feel time passing at all. So now you know that that's an activity that is a part of yourself. That is part of your identity. It's something that you can do that is so you that it just consumes you, that you don't pay attention to time. Let's look at the next reason why you may be having trouble finding purpose or direction. Overwhelm. Maybe you're overwhelmed. You have too many options or interests. And I definitely went through this. I have ADHD. I'm slightly interested in a little bit of everything. And it created a big issue with trying to figure out what I do. I moved forward in so many different paths before sticking to anything. I really tried a million things and I thought I had a lot of options. I had a lot of interests. I mean, maybe I didn't have a lot of options. Like maybe the most of the things I thought I could do, I would have been terrible at. That's probably the case, but it felt like I had a lot of options just because I had so many interests. So let's ask, why are you overwhelmed? There may be external noise. External noise can be social media. It can be your friends pushing you in one direction or another. It's anything that's coming from outside of yourself. So I've definitely fallen into rabbit holes on social media, on YouTube, that tell you, this is a great path. You should do this. This is a good business. You should start this business. You should start going into this career, that career. And I would just see these videos and then I would think, oh, that's interesting. I'll do that. Oh, that's interesting. I'll do that. And then never constantly having any roots and never constantly having any sort of long-term direction because I was all over the place. I was just having so much external noise pushing me around that I couldn't move forward. I was just stuck starting new thing after new thing after new thing. I always had too many projects going on at once. I think no sense of self can definitely be a cause for overwhelm, right? A lot of these things, like I said before, are interconnected. People pleasing, if you are doing things to please people, it is so overwhelming. I went through this. Like I struggled with this for so long. I still struggle with this to some degree. When you just want to make people happy. You just want to make people happy, but then you also know that there's these other things that you want to do, so you're trying to do the things you want to do while also simultaneously doing things that other people want you to do, And I hate to break it to you, like, there's only so much time in the day. There's only so much time in the day. And if you want to succeed, if you want to actually move forward on any one path, eventually you're going to have to get to the point where you stop doing things for other people and just doing them for yourself. Just following the path. Just following your direction, staying true to your purpose, not getting caught in all the other things and just doing things to please people. Even if they pay you for it, unless it's like an exorbitant amount of money, it's usually not worth it. You can find work that's like part of your purpose, part of your direction, at least related to it, that isn't just for pleasing someone. Okay, so what about cognitive burnout or neurodivergence? Yeah, like I said, I have ADHD, so overwhelm a lot of the time until I sort of learned how to handle that. So fear of regret, perfectionism, and future anxiety. Yes, perfectionism and anxiety were definitely things that I went through, and they definitely added to the overwhelm of trying to choose a direction. Another reason why you can be overwhelmed is because of a fear of closing doors. So that's not a literal fear of doors closing. It is like a metaphorical door closing. It is a scarcity mindset and a need for freedom. So a scarcity mindset is sort of thinking that if you do this one thing, that you won't be able to do anything else, that you're locked in, that you're stuck on that thing forever. You can't ever do anything else. And that is not true. To get a plane off the ground, it takes a lot of fuel. That's when the most fuel is used, right? So in the beginning, when you do something, all of your energy might have to go towards that one thing. But once you get the ball rolling, you can still have other hobbies. You can still do other things. So don't get caught up in the scarcity mindset and the need for freedom. I always struggled with the need for freedom. I never liked being boxed into anything, but if you get so caught up in the need for freedom that you don't move forward at all, you will eventually once again feel stuck. So it is a kind of a weird self-fulfilling prophecy. It is kind of paradoxical in that way. So what is the easiest next step you could take if you are experiencing overwhelm? So instead of exploring options, explore your values. Don't ask, what are all these different things that I could do? Ask yourself, what do I value in life? Do I value helping people? Do I value autonomy? Do I value making the world a better place? Figure out what it is that you value, because you need to just start narrowing things down if you're overwhelmed. If you're overwhelmed and you want to do 1,000 things, you just got to start narrowing it down from somewhere. And an easy way to start is if you have an interest that doesn't really align with one of your values, that doesn't really align with your purpose, then that can just be a hobby. It could be something you do, but it's not really going to be a life direction. The next thing you could do is list all the options by most to least appealing. Anytime that I had too many options, anytime I had too many possibilities, too many things going on, if I could just simply list them, that was always so helpful to me, because I could just get all of these things out of my head and onto paper. And once they were on paper, I felt safe. It was like, okay, I'm not gonna forget about any of these things. They exist somewhere. I can move forward in some way. And if you list them most appealing to least appealing, then it becomes very easy to see which things you like the best. And maybe you'll have 3 things at the top of that list, but that's better than the 30 things that you have going on in your head. At least you're narrowing it down, right? Narrowing it down is better than just being stuck in the sea of a million options. So the next thing you could do, reduce external input for a period of time and prioritize listening to your own internal instincts. This helped me so much when I would take days when I was overwhelmed, and I would take days when I just didn't listen to social media. Didn't go on at all. Deleted it from my phone. Didn't look at YouTube. Didn't look at emails. If I had a day off where I could do that, it was just always so helpful, because at the end of that day, at the end of a period of time, I would be left with myself. I would be left with my own thoughts. And maybe that's scary to some people, but you have to kind of be left with yourself sometimes to figure out what it is that's going on with you, what it is that you want to do, how it is that you want to move forward. So don't be scared to just sit with yourself. It might be scary at first because your life is such a disaster that you feel overwhelmed when you're alone. But how are you going to start going through that? It's not always going to be that messy that mentally messy when you're alone. You have to just start sorting through these things. So the next thing to do is ask, which of these things do you truly want to do and which are you doing to please others? That's the people pleasing again. And if you have too many things on the list, I guarantee there's going to be some that you're doing just to please others. Like, maybe it satisfies you on some level, or it's a thing that you do because you like to do it with your friends, or you used to do it with your family. So you think, okay, maybe this is a path I can go down. My family liked helping animals, and I like helping animals, so I want to keep doing this. But really, like, you know that it's something you like doing, but it's not your path. It's not, you don't want to do it every single day. You don't want that to be your everyday job, your purpose. And purpose goes beyond job, right? Purpose is larger than that. Purpose can be to have family. Purpose can be to have some sort of spiritual practice, right? Purpose can be many different things. A good question to ask yourself if you're dealing with overwhelm is, if you could do one thing knowing that the outcome would be positive, what would that thing be? And it's kind of a cliche question, and you've probably heard it before in one form or another, but I think actually figuring out the answer to that question can be very, very helpful. The last thing I have on this list is lack of life experience or inspiration. Now, lack of life experience or inspiration can be because of these other things. It can be because of fear. It can be because of shame. Sometimes it is due to an inability to choose due to limited exposure. So why would someone be lacking experience? So it can be, again, overprotected or sheltered upbringing. Maybe you were so enmeshed with your parents, with your family, that you didn't really do anything outside of the family. You never really had any clubs, any hobbies, anything you really did outside of school. Another possible reason for lacking experience is passive consumption over lived experience. So if you've spent a lot of your time merely consuming, right, consuming content, rather than creating anything, rather than trying anything, then you may not know what you want to do. You may have interests, right? You have things that you see other people do that you think are interesting, but because you haven't actually tried any of them, you don't really have the direction. So just start trying things, right? Just get out there, start doing actual things. Another issue may be suppression of authentic interests, lack of encouragement or mentorship. Again, if you grew up without a good mirror, if you grew up and your parents weren't encouraging you to do the things that you like to do, that you wanted to do from a young age, then it makes complete sense that you become older, you get to your teen years, you get to your 20s, and you have no idea what it is that you want to do, because anytime you did anything and enjoyed it, there was no encouragement of it. There was no acknowledgement that this is the thing you were good at, or this is the thing that you liked, so you should keep doing it. Another reason for lacking experience may be fear. Maybe you're afraid of experiencing anything, right? And then go back to that fear category and figure out, why are you afraid? And just start tackling those things. Another reason for lacking experience could be neurodivergence. Maybe you really enjoy being alone. You really enjoy doing things on your own, like I do. So you never really go out and try new things and figure out what it's like to do things with other people. So you don't know what kind of jobs may be good for you, because you don't know how you'll deal with certain groups. You don't know how you'll fit in certain places, how you'll function in certain places, and the only way to find that out is to try it, is to just dip your toe in, right? See what happens. Another reason for lacking experience may be that you're stuck in survival mode. And if you are spending all your time dealing with stress, dealing with anxiety, then how are you going to go out and have other experiences? It is extremely difficult to do that. And maybe having new experiences causes and triggers that stress and anxiety and that PTSD. And if that is the case, then I really feel for you, because that is not an easy place to be in. But you really have to ask yourself, do you want to stay stuck there, or do you want to try and work on it? Because there's definitely ways to work on it. There's definitely resources. There's definitely people who can help you that are out there. You gotta take the first step. You gotta take the first step, because if there's anything I can have you walk away from this, is that no one is coming to save you, and that you have to do this on your own. Like, you have to take the steps to make your life better, to try and work on things. Because also, even if you do go to therapy, even if you do have someone who really cares about you, who really wants to help you, they're not in your head. They can't be in your head. They can't do the work on a deep enough level for it to actually make a difference for you. So you have to do it yourself. As hard and as scary and as difficult as that may be, you have to be the one who goes and does that work. And I think you can do it. I have faith in you that if you want to do it and if you try to do it, you can do it. So what is the next easiest step you can take if you don't have experience, if you're lacking in experiences? So do something new. What's one thing that interests you that you can do today? Just go do it. Just go do it. If you're able to just go and do the thing, just go and do the thing. Because you might do the thing for 5 minutes and then realize, yeah, I don't want to do this. And then just cross it off the list and move forward. This is all about just doing the next easiest thing and moving forward onto the next step. You can also ask yourself, who do you admire? Why? How did they become someone you admire? And how can you be more like them? If you admire someone because they are really helpful to other people, then that clues you into the fact that helping other people is something that you really value. And that may be your purpose. Maybe that's how you figure it out, because you see it in someone else. You're not able to quite see it in yourself just yet because you haven't done it, but you see it in someone else, and that helps you know, oh, I want that to be my purpose. Like, I like that. That's a good life. That person's doing good things. I really admire that. I'm going to do that. So look to other people. Reduce external input for a period of time and prioritize listening to your own internal instincts. I put this on almost all of them because I think it's so important, and I think that our life these days is filled with so much noise that if you don't step away sometimes and just stop looking at social media, stop looking at television, stop looking at the computer, stop looking at all these things, it's like you just kind of lose yourself in these things. You get engulfed in them. And if you don't, more power to you, because I don't know how you're doing that, because I get engulfed in it. I get lost in these things. They take up so much time. They take up so much energy. It literally gets in your head like you don't hear your own thoughts anymore because you're just scrolling, hearing the voices of everyone else. You don't need other people's voices at a certain point. At a certain point, you just need your own voice. So get rid of the noise. Instead of exploring options, explore values. What are your 3 top values? If you don't know what you want to do, but maybe you could figure out what you value, it can kind of clue you in to what you want to do, what direction is good for you, what path you want to take. Find a mentor. If you can't find a real one, find a digital one. Now, that may sound dystopian to have a digital mentor, but if all you have in your life is ChatGPT, that's better than nothing. It's better than nothing, and it can move you forward in some way. And there's so many ways in which you can get mentorship online. Yeah, you can pay a mentor, right? There's plenty of coaching programs, but you can also just watch a ton of videos. Find someone you admire who talks about how they got to where they are, and just figure that out. Back engineer that. Figure out what it is that you like about that. Are their values your values? Just pull from it what you can. You don't have to become another person, but you can learn from other people. There's so many people who I would consider mentors in my life who I've never met and probably will never meet, and some that I know I'll never meet because they're dead. But they've had such an impact on my life just from their teachings, just from their life. I think Gandhi said, my life is my message. If there's someone and you really admire what they do, you really admire where they've gotten to, take their life. Take their life as the mentorship. Read their biography. Watch their videos. Watch their content. Look at the history of them if they're not alive anymore. Figure out what it is they did. How did they get to where they wanted to go? And that will clue you in as to how you can get to where you want to go, or figure out where you even want to go. Shift focus from finding purpose to creating capacity. If you don't have much experience, there's probably a reason why you don't have many life experiences. Is it because of the guilt? Is it because of shame? Is it because of fear? Right? So maybe you can't quite go and have those experiences just yet that clue you into what you want to do. But maybe you could start figuring out what it is that you need to do to create the capacity in your life to be able to start trying things out. And maybe one of the ways that you get capacity is by spending more time with yourself. Maybe you need more sleep. Maybe you need to reduce the external noise. All of these things on this list, they all interact with each other. I don't think any of these things is stuck within one box of one reason why you don't have a purpose or a direction. All of these things are intertwined. And the next thing to try is focus on having a micro purpose. Ask yourself what gives you a sense of dignity and meaning today. It may seem silly that some small thing that gives you a sense of purpose now might help you find your larger purpose in life, but I promise you, at the base of why that small thing makes you feel dignity is one of the reasons why the larger thing in your life will help you feel dignity. So just dig deep into these things, large and small. So after going through all of that and figuring out what are the possible things that may be holding you back from finding purpose and direction in your life, I have a few questions that might also clue you in as to how to find that. So what are these questions? What is the hardest thing you do that you enjoy? What kinds of problems do you feel drawn to solve? What would you still do even if you weren't paid for it? What would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? What would you do if you only had X amount of time to live? What do you want written on your obituary? So all of these questions, it's all kind of the same question, but for whatever reason, sometimes when you ask a question one way, it just doesn't register with your brain. But when you ask it another way, sometimes you find the answer. The answer is there. You have to just keep digging, right? And I think I like this one at the top a lot. What is the hardest thing you do that you enjoy doing can really clue you in to what it is that you want to pursue in life. For me, I realized that I could video edit. If it was a video I wanted to edit, if it was a video that was meaningful to me, I could sit and edit that video for like 20 hours straight. And it would get tedious. It would become painful at a point just because I had been sitting for so long. But there are not many people who could sit and just edit a video for 20 hours. Many people just get to the point where they say, I have to take a break from this. I can't keep doing this. So I kind of realized, this is sort of like a small superpower I have, that I could just sit and edit these videos for hours at a time. I just kind of get lost in it, right? Time falls away. So figure out what it is that you can do that maybe seems hard to other people, because that's probably something that you enjoy doing and that you can be paid for, and that you can also use to help you find larger purpose and to give you direction. So after you go through all these things and you figure out what it is that's been keeping you from finding your purpose and direction, and you work through that, and you eventually finally figure out your purpose and your direction, what next? What do you do next? What do you do next? How do you get started, and how do you stay accountable? So first of all, break it down. Turn your purpose into specific, tangible goals. And that can be purpose or direction, right? These are interchangeable. Ask yourself, what does success look like in 1 year, in 5 years? When I decided that I really wanted to do YouTube, I said to myself, if I'm not monetized in a year, I can't do this. I have to monetize this in a year. Now, it took me 4 years to monetize because I was not serious for numerous years while doing it. But once I decided that this is what I wanted to do, and I put that sort of goal in motion that I wanted to monetize in a year, I monetized in much less than a year, because I think that giving yourself some sort of timeline kind of like puts that fire under you to like get started, because you don't want to get to the end of that timeline for something that you really want to do and not have accomplished that. And that being said, don't create some sort of goal at the end of a timeline that's completely not reachable. Like if I had said to myself, I want to have $1 billion within a year, it's like, okay, that's not completely impossible, but that's pretty impossible. That's pretty unattainable. If you have no money to begin with, if you're starting from nothing, getting to $1 billion in a year is going to be pretty impossible. Not impossible, but very close. Then ask yourself, what's one step you can take today? Again, this is constantly about taking small bites, taking small steps forward a little bit at a time. Then create structure for yourself. Build routines, systems, and habits that support your purpose. If you don't have routines, systems, and habits, you're getting nowhere fast. You have to make these things, because you're going to be doing this every single day, and creating systems, creating habits is going to help you so much. For my YouTube videos, I have so many systems in place that help me. I have so many presets that I've saved in my editing software. I know where I'm going to make my thumbnail. I know how I'm going to figure out my title. I know how I'm going to add my text. I know the size. I know the font. I know these things. I have these systems in place that make it faster, that make it easier for me to go to A to B to C to keep moving forward. Then start to design your daily life around it, even in small ways. If you know your purpose, if you know the direction you're going in, chances are you know many small tasks that you need to do to help you move forward. And if you can tie those small tasks to things you're doing in your everyday life, you're going to start to just do those things automatically. And the amount of progress you're going to make, the amount of productivity that you're going to have is going to be much greater if you tie that to things that you're doing every single day, because it's easier to remember to do those things and it just becomes autopilot. It becomes routine. Protect your time and energy for what matters most. This is so important because if you do not schedule your time, other people are going to schedule it for you. If you don't figure out how you're going to use your energy, if you don't save your energy for yourself, other people will absolutely take it from you. And why not take that energy back, take that time back, and spend it on yourself. Work on your goals, on your purpose, move in the direction you want to go in. Next, take imperfect action. Don't wait for the perfect time. Start messy, adjust along the way. Progress beats perfection. Do it badly, but do it. Again, success is a string of failures. It is a string of learning from what you do wrong. So don't get stuck in perfectionism. Don't get stuck not doing anything because you're too worried about it having to be perfect. Imperfect action beats perfectionism because perfectionism doesn't exist. So just take imperfect action. And if you take enough action, you're going to learn from that action over time and you're going to keep getting better at what you're doing. Next, surround yourself with fuel. Find people who believe in you. Find an accountability buddy. Find spaces that inspire you. Watch content that aligns with your path. If you want to be successful, if you want to pursue your purpose, if you want to move in the direction of your goals, just start surrounding yourself with it. Get obsessed with it. The more obsessed you are with it, the faster you're going to move down that path. Document your journey. Journal your wins and lessons on paper, digitally, or on social media. I see so many people doing this today, and it's actually really inspiring to see so many young people choosing a purpose in life and then documenting it on social media, and that alone will hold you accountable because you have an audience who's waiting, who's watching, who wants to see what's next. Track your progress weekly, daily, and yearly. I think tracking your progress is so important because when you track your progress, you can look at it, and merely seeing your progress helps encourage you to keep going. Celebrate small successes and milestones. If you just celebrate the big wins, it's going to be much harder to keep going. If you celebrate even the small wins, your journey is going to be so much more enjoyable. And the last step is revisit and refine. Your purpose will evolve. Keep listening and reassess when needed. Course correct with clarity, not fear. Don't get down a path and then realize, oh, this is hard. I don't want to keep doing this. Because any path you go down, it's going to be difficult. So you're going to face the difficulties. Just make sure you're facing them on a path that you want to be on. And then when you get to the end of this, right, when you get to the end of this step, just start over. Because by the time you get to the end of this, you're going to be able to break it down further. You're going to be able to create more structure. There's going to be more action that you can take, and you can continue to surround yourself with fuel. So this is not a one-time thing. You can keep going through this. So some final things to consider. Failure to choose is a choice. You can fail at what you don't want, so might as well take a chance on doing what you love. That is a quote by Jim Carrey. Yeah, you can fail at what you don't want to do, so might as well just try and do what you want to do, and maybe you'll be successful. And maybe you'll fail, but you can also fail at something you don't want to do, so might as well try, right? There is no perfect path, only a path you commit to. None of these paths are perfect, and you will quickly realize that once you're on them. On any path, some compromise is inevitable. Any path you take, you're going to have to compromise somewhere. So at the first chance that you have to compromise, at the first sign of compromise, don't give up. Don't think that this isn't the right path for you anymore. Just figure out which paths have the compromises that you want to make. If it feels risky but true, follow it. If it feels safe but dead, reconsider. If you're on a path that feels safe but dead, that is not going to last long. That is going to be excruciatingly painful as you move forward in life. So reconsider and find the thing that you want to do quickly so you can get started. Purpose and direction do not mean an absence of difficulty. The stronger your purpose, the more bearable the difficulty becomes. No path is going to be free of difficulty. Just choose the one that has the difficulty that you want to deal with, and it will be much more bearable. When you face a difficulty, ask if this is an external or internal difficulty. If the difficulty is internal, changing the external won't fix the issue, and vice versa. Maybe you have a job and you don't like it, but the reason why you don't like it is because you're just feeling a lot of anxiety in your life right now. And if you resolve that anxiety, you'll start to have some peace at that job again. Or maybe you don't like that job because that job is just not right for you. But you have to ask yourself where that problem lies. Is it internal or external? And if the problem is internal and you keep looking for external solutions, you're just going to end up back in the same place again, right? So try and really figure out, is this internal or external? Identify your unfair advantages and disadvantages. Capitalize on your advantages, improve or circumvent your disadvantages. You're going to have some sort of disadvantages in anything that you want to do. You just have to figure out how to improve them or circumvent them. So, for example, improving a disadvantage is like if you have trouble reading, so you read more. So eventually you get faster at reading. But circumventing it is if you start listening to audiobooks. Just because you have a disadvantage doesn't mean you shouldn't go down a path if that's the path you want to choose. You just have to learn how to deal with those disadvantages. That was a lot of information. And if you made it to this point in the video, congratulations, because you are a committed person who I have faith is going to figure this out, is going to find their purpose, is going to find their direction in life. Because if you're committed to watching a video that is this dense on the topic, then it must be something that you are putting the time into, putting the work into. So I have faith that you're going to get there, and you should have faith too. But before I go, I want to end on one quote that I think gives perspective to everything that we just talked about. And if anything in this video was useful to you, if you figured out your path, if you figured something out, please put it in the comments below. It'd be really helpful for me. It'd be really interesting for me to see what you actually got out of this. And I will put a link in the description for the chart if you're interested in it. But let's look at this quote from Carlos Castaneda. "A path is only a path, and there is no affront to oneself or to others in dropping it if that is what your heart tells you. Look at every path closely and deliberately, try it as many times as you think necessary, then ask yourself alone one question. Does this path have a heart? If it does, the path is good. If it doesn't, it is of no use." Thank you for watching this video, and I really hope to see you in the next one.